I legitimately suck at being a human being. Hey guys! Today I'm making the first video out of a probably pretty long series that I'm going to call Why I Suck at Being a Human Being. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm a really awkward person. I do a lot of really stupid things. I thought that I could share these stories with you and you could all laugh at me. I hope you enjoy my regrettable life decisions and maybe you can relate in some way. This video is going to be about clumsiness, and I wasn't really sure how to classify this. I am just so clumsy and unfortunate in every way possible. I think it's a mix between clumsiness and just plain bad luck that all this stuff just happens. Like, I'll do something that I probably should have thought more about before I did it, and then it just ends horribly, horribly wrong. One time I was at Sephora and I was looking through the pressed powder foundation section and there was like a little brush sticking out of the wall and I was like, ooh, I want to look at this foundation brush. And so I pull on the foundation brush and the entire thing just tips over and the foundation goes everywhere. 10 or 20 pressed powder foundations shattered. And I just stood there in horror. Everybody turned to look at me, and this foundation section was right next to the cashier desk, and so there were like 3 or 4 workers who just turned around and glared at me like I had just killed their firstborn child. And someone came over to me and I was just like mumbling and talking nonstop, like babbling at this woman, and she was like, no, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. And I was like, okay. And I just walked away. That was a traumatizing experience. This was like in 8th grade too, so I must have looked like such an asshole. I tend to always knock things over. Like last week I went to get bubble tea with my friend. I go over to get my bubble tea. I don't know how, like my arm wasn't even near this, but there were like tons of like little, like, you know, the little bubble tops for cups. And it was like a giant, I think there was 1 or 2 giant stacks there. As I'm reaching for my drink, somehow I managed to knock it all over. And it's not like I knocked them all over onto the floor where I was so I could pick them up. I knocked them into like the other side of the counter where the people were working and making teas and coffees. And I was like, again, absolutely mortified. I do this weird thing where I'll just like freeze and panic and like just start saying I'm sorry over and over. She looked at me like she felt bad for me because I was so awkward. And she was like, no, don't worry about it. And she picked him up. My friend was on the other side of the shop when this happened. And so I just turned around and shamefully hurried over to him and like was like, I'm so awkward, I'm so awkward, I'm so awkward. One of the worst parts about it was it's not like I could have just like left after that because I was waiting for a sandwich. It took a long time, so I just had to stand there by the people who had just cleaned up the mess I made. I don't know why things like this always happen to me. Like, I understand the whole, you know, Sephora incident because I was stupid and thought that I could take the brush out of the display and then destroy the display. But with this bubble tea incident, I wasn't being reckless or anything. I was just going for my tea very carefully, and then somehow my arm must have grown like 8 extra inches and just flung the cups off the thing. I'm like a magnet for ruining things. I also managed to negatively affect the people around me in some physical way. Let me explain. My friend was maybe 1 or 2 people in front of me, and I reached my arm around the people to pull on her ponytail, and she turned around and tried to smack me, and she ended up directly slapping the girl behind her in the face. I was mortified. She was mortified, the girl she slapped was mortified, everyone around us was mortified. I wasn't the person who slapped her, but my friend's slap was a retaliation for what I did. In essence, it was my fault. I just stood there and I apologized repeatedly and she said it was fine, but it was so awkward. I always put people in really bad situations and I don't mean to, but it just happens. I'm like a walking black hole. Anyone around me will get sucked into this like dark pit of embarrassment and awkwardness. My friend and I would always like play pranks on each other. I decided to crumple up a piece of paper and throw it at him because he tried to like smack it away, and it hit the girl in front of him on the head. And this girl turns around to him and she starts screaming. It was terrifying, but his reaction was so funny because he couldn't even get a word in without her continuing to yell. And he looked so helpless, and he was just like, he does like this similar thing that I do, and he just kind of like do this awkward like shriveling motion, like, oh my gosh, like I'm not here. She ended up getting over it, but she was like pretty pissed off. I don't know how you'd classify these things. I mean, I guess part of it's clumsiness. I think before I do things now, but I still manage to do really stupid things. And sometimes it is my fault. Sometimes it's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Like that was a bad decision. But other times, I don't do anything and somehow I ruin everything. I think the universe is just trying to tell me to not be around other human beings because I'm going to mess everything up. Now you see why I want to call this series Why I Suck at Being a Human Being. Because I suck at being a human being. Sometimes I think I just shouldn't leave my house. Have you ever had an awkward experience or done something really dumb and messed everything up? If you have, please leave a comment below telling me about it so I won't feel the need to cry myself to sleep tonight. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel down below for more videos, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!
We can fight our desires.